Working for Diddy for 6 years trained me to have to be perfect. Why are you having me here?
I don't have to have you here. That's one thing that we can make clear. That's one thing we can make clear.
What happened to Diddy Kane? Why did the band break up?
I wasn't willing to do what was expected of me, not talent-wise, but in other areas. At the very end, he fired me.
Aubrey O'Day is going to be a witness testifying against Diddy.
Why did Aubrey O'Day break her silence, risking it all to testify against Diddy? Her cryptic social media hints and NYC arrival are just the beginning of what could change everything.
According to Us Weekly, Aubrey O'Day is set to testify in the Diddy trial. So according to Us Weekly, former Danity Kane singer Aubrey O'Day is set to testify in the Sean Diddy Combs high-profile trial. A source confirmed to us that O'Day was subpoenaed and has traveled to New York City to testify sometime this week or next. She's already here this week, but I don't believe she'll be able to testify this week because Cassie probably will be testifying all day tomorrow.
I am a very strict and focused businesswoman because working for Diddy for 6 years trained me to have to be perfect.
Working for Diddy.
Absolutely.
I love Diddy. You know, he's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy.
He expects.
Is he a good guy?
I don't want to answer that question.
The deal that we were offered, and when I say we, not every artist got it. Like Day 26 did not get it. But this is what it is. You can have your rights back to your music after Puff went under and somebody else bought our catalog. So this is long after we have 2 double platinum albums, $14, $15 an album from 2 million albums is, what is the math on that, 48 million?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm a mathematician, but maybe.
So $48 million somebody made on me.
About Aubrey O'Day being a witness testifying against Diddy, and I think the reports are 100% true, even though it's not been confirmed by the government. Aubrey O'Day did in fact touch down in New York City yesterday, and she posted this to her Twitter 2 days ago. You are standing at the edge of the season that will demand your truth in full voice. What you've hidden, denied, or feared will no longer fit the shape of who you are becoming. Doors that once ignored you will now open, not because you knock louder, but because you carry the authority of alignment. You were not late, you were right on time. And everything you thought was a detour was actually divine preparation. Stay rooted, speak clearly, and the shift is already in motion.
Aubrey O'Day set her timeline on fire with one cryptic tweet. Just days before she was spotted in New York City, she posted a message that many now believe directly hinted at her role in the explosive testimony against Diddy. The tweet read, "You are standing at the edge of the season that will demand your truth in full voice. What you've hidden, denied, or feared will no longer fit the shape of who you are becoming." Fans were struck by those words, interpreting them as a thinly veiled declaration that Aubrey was about to face something significant. The statement didn't stop there. It continued, "Doors that once ignored you will now open not because you knock louder, but because you carry the authority of alignment." This wasn't a casual post. It felt calculated, powerful, and purposeful. And now, as her arrival in New York coincides with Diddy's trial, everything is coming into focus. Her past connection to Diddy isn't something that can be overlooked. As a former member of Danity Kane, Aubrey O'Day worked directly under him during some of his most prominent years in the music industry. This wasn't just a business relationship. Aubrey has been vocal in the past about the control Diddy exerted over her and the group, describing harsh management tactics and a toxic environment that allegedly stifled the members' creative and personal lives. Her experience places her squarely in the inner circle of someone who has long been accused of using power and influence to silence dissent. If anyone has insight into how Diddy operated, it's Aubrey. What makes this even more compelling is the timing of her presence. Aubrey's arrival in NYC during the trial's first week was no coincidence. Once it became public knowledge, the online buzz exploded. Was she here to testify? What information does she have? While nothing was confirmed initially, the speculation grew stronger when her name was brought up in relation to the allegations. As someone who shared professional and personal space with Diddy, her testimony could be critical in validating claims made by others, particularly regarding the disturbing allegations tied to Cassie Ventura. For years, Diddy has been accused of controlling the narratives of those in his orbit, especially when they've threatened to expose the murkier parts of his empire. Many of his collaborators, staff, and even former friends have spoken about being silenced or dismissed. But Aubrey is not following that script. Her decision to step forward, whether loudly through social media or quietly in the courtroom, instantly changed the energy around this trial. The cryptic messaging, the public appearance, and the inevitable courtroom revelations have already shifted the conversation. Her willingness to push back against the alleged control and manipulation is setting a tone of defiance that could inspire more people to come forward. So, what is she holding back? That might be the most tantalizing question of all. If her social media post is any indication, Aubrey seems ready to lay it all on the table. Given the history of secrecy and silencing that surrounds Diddy's world, there's reason to believe that her testimony could carry bombshell details. What did she see behind the scenes of Diddy's empire? Was she a direct witness to any of the racketeering, forced labor, or abusive behavior described in the case? These are questions that will likely be answered once she takes the stand, but the very idea has left the public holding their breath. Her presence in the courtroom isn't just a legal move, it's symbolic. It signals a new chapter where individuals are no longer afraid to speak against powerful figures. This isn't just about what happened to Aubrey during her time with Diddy. It's about what her voice represents for others who've been silenced. The trial no longer feels like it's just about Cassie's allegations. It's becoming a bigger commentary on the toxic structures within the entertainment industry, with Aubrey at the forefront. As this trial heats up, Aubrey O'Day stepping into the spotlight feels like more than just testimony. It feels like a shift, but she's not alone. Another critical witness, Don Richard, is preparing to come forward, adding even more weight to the growing case against Diddy. We'll dive into her role and what her words could mean for this trial next.
I just want to throw you the facts, okay?
Sure.
So this is long after we have 2 double platinum albums, $15 an album from 2 million albums is, what is the math on that, 48 million? And this benevolent man who's just now had a change of heart and has decided to pay us as talent. We only get the amounts due since Sony bought our catalog.
Okay.
So streaming for the past couple years, it's about $800, $900. I have to sign an NDA that I will never disparage Puff, Bad Boy, Janice Combs, or Justin Combs' music, or EMI, or Sony ever in public. I would like to do a documentary for Hulu or Netflix or Amazon, a streaming site. I offered some of the girls, hey, if you need $800-900, I'll give it to you. Don't sign this.
The fact that the kids are marching up to that court, praying over everything and walking in with a bunch of women also that are encouraging it. I don't know any father that would want their children to sit through testimony about how much their daddy liked to watch people lubricated.
They are going to start shaping multiple different charges that Diddy is being accused of. And not only that, they are going to corroborate what Cassie Ventura is saying, because things that they witnessed firsthand being around Cassie. She also alleged that Diddy had a very demeaning behavior towards them and made it very toxic, and that also plays a part into the forced labor charge.
Don Richard's testimony has quickly become one of the most explosive pieces of this trial. As the lawsuits and allegations pile up against Diddy, her statements bring a level of detail and insider knowledge that could make all the difference. Richard, a key witness, has laid out shocking claims in her lawsuit that have already sent ripples through this legal battle, and they center directly on allegations of control, violence, and exploitation. Here's where it gets even more intense. Richard has alleged she personally witnessed Diddy physically assaulting Cassie Ventura on multiple occasions. This is not hearsay or secondhand gossip. She claims to have seen these acts with her own eyes. That part of her testimony alone matters immensely. Here's why. Cassie's allegations against Diddy have already painted a chilling picture of abuse, but Richard's claims back them up, giving the court critical corroboration from someone who was close enough to see the alleged violence happen in real time. That's not just a coincidence, it's a potential turning point for this trial. Richard's lawsuit also details an environment that sounds more like a nightmare than an entertainment career. She's described working under horrifying conditions, 36 to 48-hour work sessions with no breaks, no food, and no sleep. This wasn't just an occasional occurrence, according to Richard. This was the standard. She's also stated that Diddy subjected his staff and performers, including members of Danity Kane, to constant psychological strain with his derogatory and demeaning behavior. Think about that for a second. Rashard is not just accusing Diddy of fostering a toxic work environment, she's outlining what could easily fit the description of forced labor. When you hear those allegations, it's impossible not to wonder, what else lies beneath the surface? Rashard stepping forward with these allegations, especially in such a high-profile case, isn't without risk. She knows what's at stake. Her motivation to testify appears to be fueled by more than just a desire for justice. It seems deeply personal. Rashard, like so many others, has likely carried the burden of these experiences for years. For her, this trial might represent the only chance to take back some of that power and tell her truth without fear of retaliation. And let's not forget how difficult it must be to go up against someone as powerful, wealthy, and well-connected as Diddy. The risks aren't hypothetical. They are very real. What's clear is that Rashard's testimony is crucial to the forced labor charges in this broader racketeering case. Her descriptions of the working conditions under Diddy align perfectly with claims made by others, painting an undeniable picture of control and exploitation. This isn't just testimony about one person's bad behavior, it's about an entire system that allowed Diddy to allegedly operate this way, unchecked for years. The prosecution is leaning heavily on these details to establish a pattern of behavior, and Rashard's account could be the evidence that solidifies that narrative. The question now is how Diddy's legal team plans to challenge her credibility. Will they claim she's biased? That she has an agenda? Whatever their strategy, it's clear that discrediting her won't be easy. Right now, Rashard's words are doing something powerful. They're connecting dots. They're bringing cohesion to claims that might otherwise stand alone. One person's testimony can be minimized, but when multiple voices are speaking up, the case becomes harder to ignore. Aubrey O'Day opened the door to these conversations with her cryptic post and presence at the trial, but Rashard has pushed it further by revealing a behind-the-scenes look at Diddy's empire. Together, their accounts are forming a narrative that's impossible to sweep under the rug. So, how much weight will Rashard's testimony truly carry? If her claims hold up under scrutiny, it could be a devastating blow to Diddy's defense. And with the momentum of these allegations building, it feels like we're only getting closer to the core of the truth. These combined testimonies are more than statements. They're a testament to the courage of those willing to speak out against a massive figure like Diddy. What's coming next could completely crack this trial wide open.
It's concerning to me that the optics of them being there and supporting father are obviously a very strong play for the defense. The jury is seeing them in there. What kids would sit there through this if they didn't love their daddy and this was not true? I don't think they probably like to hear that either. It's telling to me. It means that daddy's being selfish and he needs, in my opinion, it feels like daddy needs you in court because daddy needs all the optics to look in his favor, and I don't really care what you have to sit through.
Aubrey O'Day is sharing more thoughts on the Diddy trial. During the premiere podcast episode of Amy Robach and TJ Holmes Present, Aubrey O'Day, covering the Diddy trial, released May 16th, the singer gives her opinion on why Sean Diddy Combs' kids are attending the trial.
It's nerve-wracking, but she's ready. She's not going to back down. She wants justice for everyone, the insider said, hinting that O'Day has a project in the works that will be all about the Diddy trial. And Aubrey has also confirmed that she's here in New York City via her Instagram. Here's the other aspect of this. I don't know if you guys saw the Diddy documentary on Max. D. Woods actually shared some interesting details about Diddy and Aubrey's relationship, highlighting a time where Diddy pursued Aubrey. Aubrey has alluded, but she's never said any specifics. That was the first time that I heard specifics in that documentary on Max.
We know that they can corroborate the violence against Cassie Ventura because Dawn Richard said that she saw this several different times, and that plays a part into the trafficking charge, force, fraud, or coercion of Cassie Ventura. But they also play in a big part in the racketeering conspiracy charge. As you can see in the RICO charge, one of Diddy's charges that falls under this big RICO charge with all of these criminal charges underneath of it is forced labor. And in Dawn Richard's lawsuit, she alleged forced labor of her and all of her Danity Kane bandmates. She said that they were forced to work long hours, between 36 to 48 hours, without breaks, without sleep, and even without food.
The forced labor allegations against Diddy have pulled back the curtain on what life was really like for the people working closest to him. According to Dawn Rashard's testimony, it was nothing short of a nightmare. Her lawsuit describes extreme conditions, instances of being forced to work for 36 to 48 hours straight, often without food, sleep, or even basic breaks. Imagine not just pulling an all-nighter, but doing so repeatedly while enduring constant pressure from the person in charge. This wasn't an accident or a rare occurrence. Rashard claims it was the standard under Diddy's control. These accounts reflect an environment where exploitation wasn't just tolerated, it was expected, creating a reality that now serves as the foundation for this trial. Rashard isn't the only one to describe such treatment. Her allegations echo those of another individual known as Victim Number 4, a former personal assistant of Diddy's, who also pointed to grueling workloads and a toxic atmosphere. Together, their claims paint a picture that's hard to ignore. Basic human necessities like rest, nourishment, and respect were allegedly stripped away, replaced with unrealistic demands and a constant fear of retaliation. Rashard's detailed accounts outline not just long hours, but the psychological toll it took on those involved. Diddy's allegedly demeaning behavior added insult to injury, making an already draining situation even worse. Being a part of his inner circle didn't come with perks, it came with exhaustion. The toxic environment described in Rashard's lawsuit goes beyond long hours and harsh words. It hints at a deliberate system of control. For years, Diddy has been accused of using his authority to keep people compliant, and Rashard's testimony supports that claim. The alleged verbal abuse wasn't just about putting people down, it was about reminding everyone who had the power. It created a culture where speaking out felt impossible, where the fear of backlash outweighed the will to resist. Rashard's experiences shine a light on how control wasn't only physical, but psychological, extending well beyond the demands of labor into every facet of life under Diddy. One key detail from Rashard's lawsuit ties directly into the broader racketeering conspiracy charges. The forced labor allegations underline a pattern of systemic exploitation that wasn't confined to one person or one incident. Rashard's claims highlight connections between the toxic culture she endured and the accusations Cassie Ventura brought forward about physical and psychological abuse. The idea of forced labor doesn't stop at long work hours. It's about individuals being manipulated to the point that they had no choice but to endure these conditions. Each claim builds on the last, forming a clearer image of the kind of empire Diddy allegedly ran. What's more disturbing is how this atmosphere was normalized. By all accounts, the toxic culture wasn't seen as something wrong or out of the ordinary within Diddy's circle. For staff and performers to endure things like sleep deprivation and verbal attacks without question shows just how deeply ingrained this system of control had become. Rashard's allegations give insight into this bigger story, where boundaries were eroded and exploitation became routine. Connecting these dots to the larger charges against Diddy gives the jury a more comprehensive view of how power dynamics played into the alleged crimes. The question now is how Rashard's testimony will resonate outside the courtroom. For years, people in Diddy's orbit have faced accusations of silence, whether due to NDAs, intimidation, or the sheer influence he carried. Rashard's decision to speak out and the specifics she's brought forward could inspire others to do the same. The impact isn't just legal, it's cultural. What she's describing isn't just one man's bad behavior, it's a system that enabled it. If the jury and public take these allegations seriously, the repercussions could be far-reaching. As more details emerge, this trial feels bigger than just forced labor charges or lawsuits. It's about tearing down a facade and giving a voice to the silenced. Rashard's bravery in describing the toxic conditions under Diddy sets a precedent. Now, we're left wondering how many others, equally silenced, might come forward. This trial is building momentum, and as more witnesses take the stand, the spillover effects could grow even larger. What's becoming clear is that this case isn't only about the past, it might just reshape the future.
And both Aubrey O'Day and Dawn Rashard laying out forced labor allegations will also help victim number 4, who we know is using a pseudonym. And that's because Diddy is being charged with forced labor on victim number 4. And we found out in the opening statements that victim number 4 is an ex-personal assistant of Diddy. A lot of people were thinking that this could be Aubrey O'Day, but based off what we learned already, it's not. But her testimony is going to play a huge part for victim number 4. So not only can they corroborate the violence toward Cassie Ventura, which is a part of her trafficking charge, they can also prove the forced labor charge that falls under the racketeering conspiracy charge, and also help victim number 4, who is an employee of Diddy, who also alleges forced labor. And I'm sure in their testimonies, we're going to get even more context that we probably never even heard about. But either way, Aubrey O'Day and Don Richard's testimonies are going to be huge pieces against Diddy in his trial. But y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.
Aubrey O'Day and Don Richard are pulling back the curtain on what Diddy has allegedly spent years trying to keep hidden, and the fallout could be massive. Their testimonies are already shaking up the narrative surrounding this case, and for good reason. For years, whispers about Diddy's alleged behavior have circulated, but now 2 of the most credible voices from his inner circle are stepping forward with what they know. The big question is, what secrets might they reveal that Diddy doesn't want the world to know? Let's start with Aubrey O'Day. As a former member of Danity Kane, she was directly under Diddy's control during his height in the music industry. Though much of that chapter has long been closed, her recent cryptic tweet signaled she's done staying quiet. "You are standing at the edge of the season that will demand your truth in full voice," she wrote, hinting at her decision to no longer hold back. Fans have tried to read between the lines of that post, believing it's directly tied to her role in this trial. More importantly, her words suggest a reckoning, not just for herself, but for the years of alleged mistreatment she may have witnessed or endured during her time with Diddy. Aubrey is someone who saw life behind the scenes, and if those years of silence are ending now, it's unlikely Diddy is prepared for what's coming next. And then there's Don Richard, whose testimony has already added fuel to the fire. Richard has described a chilling work environment that went far beyond typical industry demands. Her testimony includes striking details about grueling working hours, the lack of basic human necessities like breaks or sleep, and a culture of constant intimidation. But it's not just the forced labor allegations that get under Diddy's carefully maintained image, it's the control. Richard has painted a picture of a toxic empire where dissent wasn't tolerated, loyalty was demanded, and speaking out was considered an unthinkable risk. That kind of environment doesn't just happen by accident. It's intentional, and it raises questions about what else Diddy systematically worked to keep people from revealing. For years, maintaining control seems to have been the cornerstone of Diddy's power. Many critics have pointed to how he allegedly silenced former collaborators, employees, and even close friends when cracks in his empire began to show. Whether that silence came through NDAs, manipulation, or outright intimidation, the message was clear. Stepping out of line meant potential consequences. This isn't a new accusation against him, but what makes this moment different is the willingness of people like O'Day and Richard to finally challenge that narrative. Their testimonies don't just risk exposing 1 or 2 incidents. They could dismantle an entire persona that Diddy has spent decades curating. Media coverage has also speculated about the evidence these 2 women might bring to light. Could they have witnessed unseen incidents tied to the racketeering or forced labor charges? Or perhaps they have first-hand accounts that can tie directly into Cassie Ventura's allegations of trafficking and abuse. Whatever they're holding back, it's adding a new layer of tension to this trial, and it's making one thing clear: this case could reveal more than anyone initially anticipated. And with such impactful details coming from high-profile insiders, it's hard not to wonder who else might step forward next. This is a turning point. Richard and O'Day's willingness to break their silence sends a signal to others who may have also experienced or witnessed the alleged abuse. Now is the time to speak up. Could their accounts lead to new witnesses or even additional charges against Diddy? That remains to be seen, but the possibility is impossible to ignore. What's for sure is that their courage to step forward is unraveling the narrative Diddy spent years protecting. The public image of the mogul, the mentor, the untouchable star, it's crumbling, and these testimonies might shatter it completely. What happens next is anyone's guess, but one thing is certain: the truth is catching up, and Diddy's empire might never look the same again. With every reveal, the momentum for justice grows stronger, leading to an undeniable shift in how power and accountability collide in the entertainment industry.
Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand. The defense hit her hard during cross-examination, asking her about a stint in rehab for PTSD, a rape allegation, and asking her to read explicit text messages from over the past 15 years.
Richard accused Combs of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and a hostile work environment by being exposed to sex trafficking and sex acts. She also alleged that she was a victim of false imprisonment. In her suit, Richard stated she was seeking compensatory and punitive damages, as well as other costs for post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and emotional suffering, and financial losses she suffered as a result of Combs' alleged behavior. Combs has denied her allegations. His lawyer told E! News in September, Mr. Combs is shocked and disappointed by this lawsuit. Richard's testimony in Combs' ongoing trial comes 8 months after she accused the rapper in a lawsuit of subjecting her to years of inhumane working conditions, which included groping, assault, and false imprisonment. The lawsuit, filed in September, obtained by E! News, stated, Mr. Combs frequently held meetings with Ms. Richard wearing only his underwear, despite Ms. Richard's protests and repeated requests for him to put on clothing. In her filing, the 41-year-old also alleged that Combs ordered her to strip down to her underwear, made demeaning remarks about her body, and entered her dressing room unannounced while she was unclothed, and touched her without her permission under the guise of showing the stylist what to do.
The trial against Diddy is turning into one of the most talked about cases in entertainment, and for good reason. The testimonies from Aubrey O'Day and Don Rashard have already shaken the foundation of a public image that Diddy spent decades building. Their accounts not only support Cassie Ventura's allegations, but also add damning details that point to a larger pattern of behavior. Now the question is, what does all of this mean for Diddy's future? At the center of this trial are claims of violence, control, and exploitation, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Don Rashard's testimony is a key moment, especially her revelation that she personally witnessed Diddy's alleged physical assaults on Cassie several different times. This isn't just hearsay, it's an independent account that could validate Cassie's claims of violence. Her testimony plays directly into the trafficking charge, where force, fraud, or coercion are critical legal components. With this kind of corroboration, it becomes much harder for Diddy's legal team to dismiss Cassie's allegations as baseless or fabricated. The weight of Rashard's first-hand experience locks something pivotal into place for the prosecution. Then there's the forced labor angle. Rashard's claims about the working conditions she endured, alongside her Danity Kane bandmates, are equally shocking. Long hours, up to 48 hours straight without food, sleep, or breaks, combined with demeaning behavior, paint a clear picture of a toxic and exploitative work environment. Her testimony ties directly into the racketeering conspiracy charge, which includes forced labor as a component. These allegations don't just suggest bad behavior, they point to a systematic form of control over those who worked under him. By putting these details forward, Rashard sets the stage for the prosecution to argue patterns of abuse that extend beyond Cassie's allegations and dig into the structure of how Diddy allegedly operated his empire. What's at risk for Diddy if these allegations hold up in court? The potential legal consequences alone could be devastating. With multiple corroborating testimonies and evidence piling up, he could face severe penalties if found liable for any of these claims. Racketeering and forced labor charges aren't minor issues. They carry significant weight and could lead to years of legal battles and financial repercussions. But the fallout doesn't stop there. Diddy's entire career and reputation are on the line. Even if he manages to escape the worst legal consequences, the public and professional damage may be irreversible. This trial is already sparking broader conversations, not just about Diddy, but about the entertainment industry as a whole. What these testimonies highlight is a culture of power imbalance and control that has allowed figures like Diddy to allegedly operate unchecked for years. The entertainment industry is no stranger to allegations like these. But the willingness of high-profile individuals like O'Day and Rashard to come forward could signal a turning point. Their courage could inspire others with similar stories or experiences to finally step forward. And if more voices follow, this trial could be the domino that knocks down years of silence across the industry. Social media is amplifying every moment of this case. Rashard's descriptions of forced labor and O'Day's cryptic social media posts are fueling non-stop speculation, creating a tidal wave of public opinion that's already shifting against Diddy. Platforms like Twitter and Instagram are becoming battlegrounds for narratives, as fans, critics, and insiders all weigh in. This level of public scrutiny not only increases the pressure on Diddy, but ensures that every revelation from this trial reaches an audience far beyond the courtroom. What's next? That's the big question. The combined voices of O'Day, Rashard, and Cassie are undeniably changing the narrative, and it feels like more revelations are on the way. The floodgates are open, and with each testimony, the push for justice grows stronger. Whether these testimonies bring closure to the survivors or permanently dismantle Diddy's carefully curated image, one thing is certain. The truth has a way of surfacing, and it's arriving with consequences. The testimonies from Aubrey O'Day and Don Rashard are more than stories. They are a turning point. For years, Diddy's empire thrived behind layers of power and control, but now the walls are cracking. These revelations don't just challenge Diddy's image, they redefine accountability in industries where silence ruled for too long. Will this trial be remembered as the moment the truth finally broke free? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear, the voices of those once silenced are now impossible to ignore. Stay tuned as this trial unfolds. There are more secrets waiting to come out.